Like a teen romance, you cannot have a nice pumpage without some dirty dumpage. As discussed in yesterday's video, it's very likely Bitcoin is within a continued consolidation pattern that will likely end in a massive burst, but the question that we're going to be attempting to answer in today's video is when. And Bitcoin clearly was battling the $32,500 level, and for 10 hours it was actually holding it, but you can see after it broke below 32,500, absolute massive devastation has ensued. And guys, the most explosive chart in crypto, this is something you absolutely cannot afford to miss out on. Welcome back to Sticky Sundays, you absolute savages. I'm your host, Benjamin Beansprout, and we have a lot to be jumping into with Bitcoin's price, as Bitcoin's price has actually failed some very, very key critical things on some very short time frames. So that absolutely begs the question, what is in store for Bitcoin's price? In this webisode, we're going to be giving you my specific targets to look for, and as well, we're going to be talking about a pattern that I did not show in the intro that you are 100% going to want to be oogling throughout the next few days. Wow, so if you guys love big gainers and fat dumpers, make sure to hit that like, guys, and as well, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and always remember to turn on those post notifications so you get updated when we put out these time-sensitive critical Bitcoin alerts. And as well, guys, within the next month, as we've said, we're going to be changing a lot. We're going to be moving as well. So we are going to be changing the content and as well doing more live streaming. So make sure you have the notifications turned on for that. That's enough turkey gobble for one day. Let's jump in. Savage Central. So guys, we still see Bitcoin barely dangling on to hold on to this absolutely key daily chart for Bitcoin. We've seen a lot actually play out within the last 24 hours, and we're absolutely going to dive in, guys. But first, one thing that I want to point out is overall, we talked about kind of just the, whether you want to call it a bull flag, descending channel, whatever you want to call it, as we showed you in that clip from yesterday. And guys, with all that being said, this is in the context of a very bullish scenario for Bitcoin. So basically, the way I view it, the longer that Bitcoin does consolidate, the longer that it maybe does actually make new lows or just kind of trades within a pattern like this, the longer ultimately, or the better ultimately, I think Bitcoin is going to perform as soon as we break out of it. The stronger I think Bitcoin will absolutely bust through this pattern and to the entire market as well. But again, this is something that's probably not going to play out over the next 24 hours. This is something that could, take a little bit longer to play out. The longer this plays out, and as long as it holds structure, the longer it plays out, and the further down Bitcoin goes, the more strength, the more explosiveness we're going to see when Bitcoin finally attempts to make a move. I think it would be better if we continued this downtrend, if we actually maybe also did touch on the 50-day moving average. As you guys know, if you go back and watch maybe like the last 3 weeks, I've been saying I actually would like it if we touched on the 50-day around 27,000 US dollars. I've been saying for a while that's not like the most popular opinion. Like a lot of you guys actually do like that idea, but some of you in the comments are like, no, let's just make new all-time highs, which is great. But ultimately, for the long-term health of Bitcoin, if you want to get the most out of Bitcoin, it would be better if we actually do spend more time consolidating here. And guys, with that being said, it doesn't have to be just like a descending channel, right? If we just go to Bitcoin's daily chart and even just kind of draw something on here like a falling wedge or something like this for Bitcoin, this is a bullish pattern. Falling wedges are typically more bullish patterns, and they would very much break out to the upside. Ultimately, I do think that if we are in some sort of falling wedge like this, I personally think that the latest that we could see this break up, and kind of my ideal situation of when I would want to see this actually break and enter more of a bullish trend, would actually be more towards like the first week of February. So not in the immediate short term. So this is something that, again, you need to kind of strap in and strap on and wait a little bit, because this could take a little bit longer to play out. But ultimately, that's what I want to see happen in the market. I know some of you may disagree with that. Some of you might not want Bitcoin to continue going down for prolonged amount of time. But ultimately, to me, that's what just seems like the best, especially with the overlapping concern that the weekly chart is still insanely high up here. And ultimately, that would just help alleviate some of that extreme overboughtness and overextension on Bitcoin's weekly chart. Clearly, I mean, we're still incredibly far from the 21 week. Not saying we have to go down there. That's what happened in 2017 and 2016. Not saying we have to do that, but ultimately, I just feel more comfortable if we're just still not this completely far away from the 21-week moving average. And guys, before we get into the Bitcoin chart as well, this is something we've been also talking about for weeks, and we've been tweeting about this. You can go on our Twitter as well, but this is Ethereum paired with Bitcoin, and Ethereum actually today made a very nice move. Yesterday's video, we specifically talked about how bullish it was that Ethereum was still holding its 21-day moving average. Clearly, Bitcoin is not. Bitcoin is like $4,000 below its 21-day. Ethereum is still holding its 21-day, which is good. bullish. And if Ethereum does end up making a breakout here over the next few days, then we can actually kind of disregard maybe some of this Bitcoin price action that I'm going to talk about in a minute here, because if Ethereum absolutely explodes, remember the number 2 crypto, then again, I think that could give some more momentum to the entire crypto market and just give a little bit more bullishness in the short term that could change things and switch things up a little bit. But ultimately, Ethereum paired with Bitcoin is the most bullish structure that I've ever seen within these cryptocurrencies. This is like a 4-year symmetrical triangle, and as you can see, we're initiating some sort of blast off. Now, we have 2 very key targets within the next month or so, 5% of a Bitcoin and 10%, which ultimately I think Ethereum is going to hit. And again, one of the reasons that I've been saying for weeks that I'm still buying Ethereum, and I have not been buying more Bitcoin above 30K. If you guys go back, I've been saying for weeks now that I haven't been buying Bitcoin above some of these price levels, but I have been buying Ethereum between like 1K to like 1.3K. And ultimately that has not paid off just yet, because Ethereum has yet to really make the move that I think most people in the space are actually anticipating. So if we go to this hourly chart for Bitcoin, what exactly happened? So yesterday we made our video. I believe Bitcoin's price was right about here when we made yesterday's video, and we said 25 was going to be key. So one of the things that happened is we did end up breaching, 32.5. 32.5 was going to be key. So ultimately, we did end up breaking above 32,500. You see that here. And we were trading. And guys, this was about 10 hours that we were just trading sideways here. And the longer this went on, the less confident I think it became, because if we're just having so much trouble really breaking our first level that we have to break, then it's pretty clear, and as well, not even setting a new higher high on these very small time frames, then it's very clear Bitcoin is just not having the strength right now that it needs to make a higher high and just end up making, or just end up heading towards a more bullish scenario. So what ended up happening was, as soon as we breached 32.5, this key level here, we initiated a decent dumpage, actually all the way down to about wicking a little bit below 31K. Currently now we're just trading here, and as well, we played that clip of 30.5 being very key to hold. That in the short term looks more bearish for Bitcoin. Then we can transition more to this chart, okay, and then we'll look to 30,500 again as the next level of support, because ultimately, guys, what has been happening is we've been getting rejected off of this 21 moving average on the 4-hour chart, and Bitcoin is going to be bearish in the short term until it breaks above this. Again, 30,000 itself is also a pretty big level. Ultimately, guys, as we said yesterday, this trend has been down now. The trend has not been to the upside. The trend, you always hear the trend is your friend until the end. Well, it's been about a downtrend for over a week. It's been, I think it's closer to maybe even a little bit over 2 weeks that we've been in a downtrend. Let's be objective. Like, what is actually going on here? Since the beginning, or since about the middle of October, Bitcoin was in a trend, and that trend was to the upside. So you always hear the trend is your friend until the end. Well, that trend absolutely was true. If you go back to the middle of October, from about $11,000 per Bitcoin, the trend was your friend, and the trend above the 21-day moving average was absolutely to the upside. You see it here. And the question you might be having is, well, how do we know when the trend ends, right? If you're looking at a trend, how do we know when it ends? Well, 2 things. You take a look, this very steep trend was one of the first signs that we were breaking the trend, and then ultimately, guys, breaking the 21-day moving average that we did just a few days ago, to me is the ultimate confirmation that yes, this in fact is truly a different trend for right now. So, as of right now, the trend looks to the downside. However, I would caution this, and that is, are we actually forming some sort of bullish structure here, right? A downward consolidation that ultimately could lead into a massive bullish break. And ultimately, I think that is exactly what's happening. Another key thing, guys, we talked about yesterday, we broke above the 21 and 50 on this hourly chart. Breaking on this 4-hour chart was absolutely key. You can see that we were really battling it for 2 candles, and ultimately it just collapsed below it, which is just a surefire indication that this is probably going to go lower, and it did. It dropped about over $1,000 lower than this moving average once it actually did happen. But you can see we're kind of stalling out right now, kind of at our last level of this support. Now, this is on the daily chart. So this ascending line here is on the daily chart. It's roughly, literally about exactly where we're trading, about 31.4, 31.5-ish. But ultimately, guys, if we do end up breaking here, I do not think that we're just going to immediately plummet to our next level here, down of about 27,000. Most importantly, on this chart for support on the way down is going to be this 50-day moving average, which we have failed to touch in months. I think the last time we touched this was The last time we had a candle or a wick anywhere near this was back on October 8th, before we started Bitcoin's $30,000+ pump, right? Absolutely massive pump from about 10,000 to 42,000. And so we haven't touched this in multiple months now, over 3 months. So if we would end up getting anywhere near here, you can bet, in my opinion, that 28,000, 28.5 even, 28,500 will provide some pretty immense support for Bitcoin. And I'm going to go out and say, if we actually do get anywhere near 28,500-ish, or if we get to about 28,500-ish, then at that point, I would feel comfortable adding more to my long-term Bitcoin stack. So what I'm saying is, if we do actually get this to come all the way down, then yeah, I would say, you know what, I'm going to stop only buying Ethereum, and I will actually buy more Bitcoin if we do get down to this level here. And guys, as discussed earlier, if we are in some sort of like falling wedge here, and we do end up just continuing to go lower, let's say we do, let me just adjust this to actually match up with the wicks there. Let's say we do end up coming back down to the bottom of this and hitting on that target we just talked about, like roughly 28,500 or so like that, I would be very confident that there would be at least a short-term bounce to, 33,000 immediately after that, and the possibility that we could actually break up higher from here. But in the short term, there are two huge factors that are not the Bitcoin USD chart that we have to look at first. So we're going to see this open soon, the DXY. This will be critical because we're still facing this 21-day moving average here. This is huge, right? Tomorrow is Monday, and we're going to see how this 5-day week plays out, because it's going to be critical for determining if Bitcoin actually is going to be more in a downtrend and continue falling within a pattern like this, or if something drastic is going to change there. So this will be the chart that I'm going to be watching like a hawk for sure, the DXY here. And as well, guys, absolutely, a lot of you have been commenting about this recently, the Bitcoin dominance chart. The Bitcoin dominance chart is in a very critical position. Currently, Bitcoin's price is right now in between the 21 and 50 weekly moving averages here, currently sitting right around 63%. Right? So 63% of the entire cryptocurrency market is made up of Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin dominates about 63% of the market. Now, a lot of people have been talking about alt season, and alt's actually continuing to this trend that we've seen over the last few years. And ultimately, yeah, I agree with that. I do think we are going to see Bitcoin dominance decrease over the next few months, especially just in the long term. So with that being said, if we do see this scenario play out where, Bitcoin is in some sort of falling wedge that ultimately will most likely break out bullishly, we do have to watch for some of these top alts to start actually gaining against Bitcoin, which is exactly what's happening on Ethereum's Bitcoin pairing chart. That's literally exactly what's happening. Again, my two favorite alts, Ethereum and Chainlink, both have had really good days actually recently, where they're above their 21-day moving averages, and Chainlink specifically set a new all-time high. Ethereum got very close, but again, we're still battling on this 21-day trying to bounce here. Ethereum still has a little itsy-bitsy teensy-weensy amount to go here, roughly about 120, 130 US dollars, depending on when you look at it, before it breaks its all-time high. So guys, ultimately, to sum up Bitcoin here, what I'm looking for is another retest, potentially over this 5-day week that we're about to see here, of about 30K, at which point, if Bitcoin fails to hold 30K, specifically I think 30.5 is going to come in first here as a key level we need to watch, but if we do breach 30K, we need to see how Bitcoin reacts at this 50-day moving average, and if I would have to guess what is going to happen, I personally think we're going to see a pretty quick bounce there, okay? And that's why I said about adding to my position at that level of about 28.5. I personally think we would see a bounce there. I don't think we're going to be spending a prolonged amount of time there. And also what that means is that, obviously, if I think Bitcoin's going to bounce at the 50-day moving average, it means that over the next week, I don't think we're going to get anywhere near this 21-week moving average, which we're actually going to have this, we're going to see this move up in a few hours when we get our new weekly candle. But yeah, that's around 20,000 US dollars. I just find it very unlikely that we'll get to this 21 week anytime soon. Over this bull market, absolutely. Eventually it will meet up with Bitcoin's price action. But again, I don't see it happening within the next 5 days. Well, so if you guys are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on those post notifications so you get these time-sensitive critical updates. Again, guys, as I've been saying for a week or two, I'm personally more excited about Ethereum in the short term. I'm still very, very bullish on Ethereum. We haven't seen anything, amazing yet, but we're still kind of testing right at that area where we could see Ethereum break to a new all-time high, $2,000, $2,500 per Ether, very, very soon here. This could literally happen this week. This could happen at any moment. So again, I'm very excited. I've kind of been watching the Ethereum chart a little bit more lately. Bitcoin has kind of been doing what a lot of people were expecting. A lot of analysts were anticipating kind of just a sideways movement with, sideways paired with some downside as well. Basically just no upside. downside and sideways because of just how explosive Bitcoin specifically was the last 3 months, right? It's basically been Bitcoin's game only the last 3 months. And again, this market is more than just Bitcoin. So we need some of these other coins to really start playing more of a role. And with what we've been seeing with Bitcoin lately, it is kind of like the perfect storm for some of these alts, which we have yet to see them really surprise us. But again, guys, the main thing we really need to be paying attention to is going to be the DXY, because this will be a very telling week for the DXY. And as well, guys, if you're interested in trading, you want to support the channel, for a limited time, you can get up to an additional $620 for trading on Bybit when you use our bonuses below. Instructions are in the comments. Never trade more than you're willing to lose.